Hello again, I am Jim Bob and welcome back to Marwell Manor for day 5 of our spring period, and we are planting again today. I'm just grabbing this pallet of seed. I've got almost a full pallet that's been sat here for a little while that hasn't been used, and today is the perfect opportunity for us to actually go ahead and use that. We need to break out the seeder. Let's get the light on so we can see clearly in here. There we go. And we need the 7R. Obviously that's going to be what's going to be used to pull our seeder. And we need to put some separation into the field. I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this, and I think I might start getting the corn planted first of all. That might be the better option. Get the corn in, be comfortable with the amount of corn that I've got planted, and then put that soybean in afterwards. So let's go grab the seeder. We've got about 2,500 litres or so of seed remaining in the seeder. So it's not enough to get everything done, but a top up with the tank and also using up that remaining pallet that we have will certainly get us in good shape. Turned way too sharp there and caught the seeder on the wall there. Hopefully I haven't damaged it. There we go. The only drawback to this seeder is that it can be a little bit cumbersome at times because it is so long. Makes it a little bit trickier to manoeuvre. Get our full working lights on. Get it backed up to the seed tank. There we go. Let's open up the lid there. And we'll deposit this into our seeder. And then we can just top it straight up from the tank to fill it up completely. There we go. Excellent stuff. Now we don't need the 6M now, I don't think, for the rest of the day, so we'll just put this back in the shed. We'll keep the forks attached just because we might as well. And we'll get those lowered to the ground like that. There we go. So let's get the rest of this tank topped up. Get some corn seed into the grounds. There we go. Close the lid. And make a start with our planting over here. The sun is coming up, as you can see. It's going to get very much brighter pretty quickly. But it is a little bit dark for now. So we're going to start where we, on the opposite side to where we normally start seeding. Start all the way over here. Because I want to get to the point where I'm comfortable with the amount of corn that we have available for chaffing. It doesn't need to be a massive amount, but it needs to be worthwhile, I think. Given the cost of getting a chaffing header. So I get the seeder lowered and turned on. There we go, start putting our corn in. Gradually make our way down to the bottom part of the field here. I want at least 2 widths, maybe 3 of corn. I mean the working width of the header isn't too bad. It isn't too big. So it's going to take a while to get it all chaffed. but it's certainly a much cheaper alternative than buying a forage harvester just for a little bit. You know, if we were going to do a massive chaff, then obviously we would want something that could process it a lot faster than a small attachment. But as we're not going to have that much corn, we don't really have a field dedicated available for corn yet, then I don't know whether or not, you know, it's worth us even considering looking at leasing, because leasing is going to be horrendously expensive for a short period of time. For a long period of time, it's going to be crippling in terms of cost. I think if we try there, make that our kind of corn patch. We'll see where this squares up. It's going to be a little bit past my initial kind of estimate, but that's still going to leave us a lot of field for our soybean crop. So I'm not overly concerned by that. And it looks as though it's going to get to about where the fence starts to really tighten up, or the angle of the far side of the field starts to really straighten out, which is about okay. I had initially thought by the tree that would be our start point, but I mean that wouldn't really be that much corn. It wouldn't net us a huge amount of chaff, and wouldn't really be worth the expense of getting the header in just for a small period, like a small patch like that. But this, I think, this is a decent amount. Yeah, I'm quite comfortable with this. And as I say, it'll still leave us a good, large chunk of that field there for, you know, for soybean as well. So nice long straight runs here with the corn chaffing as well, which is going to be important because, you know, there's not going to be a lot of turn room. It's going to be quite tricky actually to get that turning sorted out. So this will definitely help us out. And let's see, do I want to try and just pivot around here? Like that. And just leave it like that. I'm not too sure. I'll certainly get the baseline in around here. And there we go. Let's move back down over here again, and we'll continue to put that corn in. I'm still not sure if I want to try and push it all the way up against the fence. I might leave that little gap at the edge there. So I'll get the rest of this corn put in, and I'll see you in a moment. There we are, finishing off this little patch of corn. Got this 2/3 pass here. That's all that's left. The sun is definitely up now. It's getting a lot brighter, as you can see. Long day ahead of us. It's a bit cloudy and overcast again, unfortunately. Hopefully the weather will improve. But I think we're going to be in for another sort of grey day today. And there we go. That is the corn planted. So now we need to figure out where we want the soybean to run. And I need to make sure that I have a pathway running up to the side here. So if I kind of position the seeder, I want to have a little bit of a gap, not too much, but a little bit of a gap. Let's get some lights on just to help out, figure out my boundary around here. It's a small separating gap between the crops. I think that should do it. Let's make sure we get soybean active in the seeder. There we go. So I want to pull down pretty straight like this, and then I need to make sure that I have enough of a gap to be able to get through with a tractor and trailer and that header as well, that forage header attachment that we'll be purchasing later. That should be enough of a gap, I think. And we'll run that all the way over to those little sort of water tracks just there. There we go. So, we have the boundary for our soybean now. So, if I head back up this way, I'll use a worker for this so that the line stays straight and we don't overlap. You can see how we've got this kind of separating area just here. And then we've got our little staging area at the start here, which is good. I don't mind having that little gap just there. And then we want to get this about here, I think. Perfect. And we're picking up the same planting line as before. So we're going to have a little separating gap between our two crops. Just so that there's no risk of potentially damaging one while working the other. Doesn't need to be a big gap, just keep it, you know, a little bit short like that. And then it'll be interesting to see how much of a yield we get off this field of soybean given the way that we've split it. And how much corn we are able to chaff as well. It might be that I've bitten off perhaps a little bit more than I can chew. I'm not sure if that's enough or if that's too much. It's certainly enough. It's just a question of whether I've gone a little bit overboard and put in just a fraction too much corn. I suppose I could have got away with a little bit less than that, but I don't know. I think if we're going to do a little bit of silage, we want to at least make it worthwhile. And the header's going to cost me 38 grand, so I want to make sure I'm getting my money's worth this year. And then obviously carrying across to next year as well. Next year we might actually work some corn on a different field. I'm not 100% certain when it comes to crop rotation for corn as to whether you plant corn on corn. I do know that you try to avoid doing that with canola. It's kind of generally recommended never to plant canola on the same field 2 years in a row. I don't know about corn though, so if anyone can help me out in the comments with that would be awesome. You know, do you plant corn on a cornfield year after year, or do you rotate those crops? Please do let me know. Speaking of crop rotation, I do know that that's going to be a new feature in Seasons when Seasons comes out this year. It's not going to be entered in the mod contest because it's an existing mod just being sort of reworked and revamped for this year. So we won't see Seasons in the mod contest, but it will be released on the mod hub. That has been confirmed, so it will be available for for everybody. And I'm assuming that includes console users. I haven't seen anything specifically saying definitely including console, but I'm sure if I dig deep enough I can find that confirmation. And I'd be amazed if they only make it available for PC players, given how hugely successful the mod was last year, and how many people are clamouring to get their hands on it already this year. So yeah, I would imagine that will be available on console mod hub as well as the PC mod hub. So that will be the only location as well, as far as I know. It won't be available on an external mod site. So if you do end up, when it finally comes out, getting it on an external mod site, it might not be the official version. It might be uploaded without permission, or it might even be a rip-off version. You never know. The best place will be to get it in the mod hub, and of course any updates will be uploaded to the mod hub version as well. So but yes, there is a new crop rotation feature, and I haven't seen full details on that yet, and I don't think they've even disclosed full details yet, but from what I understand, crop rotation will have an impact on the yields of your crops, and on top of that, it may possibly, if I remember reading right, may even have an impact on your fertilizing bonuses as well. It's possible that if you rotate your crops correctly, you might even get a free stage of fertilizer as a boost. I'm not 100% certain on that bit, but I do know that rotating the crops is going to be one of the new main features of seasons this time around, and will impact your field yields, which I think is great, adding that little flavour of realism, or that little extra flavour of realism to what is an already, you know, amazing mod. And we know that we're getting drying of hay this year as well. So you know, your hay will have to dry before you can turn it into actual hay. You know, the grass will have to dry out, and you can use a tedder to help speed up that process, but it won't skip it. There will still be a drying period involved, whether you use a tedder or not. So really looking forward to trying that feature out as well. Seasons is going to be so different this time around from what I've been reading. It's going to be vastly improved, loads of new features, and I just can't wait to get my hands on that. Still no release date, no idea when it's going to come out. I would imagine towards the end of the year is probably when we're looking, but hopefully a little bit sooner than that. We'll see. And of course, as soon as I do find out a release date, I will of course let you know. So let's plod on with the rest of our soybean planting. I reckon we're going to be done by midday at this rate, which means I might well do my mowing this afternoon after all, and start knocking up those bales. Have I got enough on me to actually lease that bale stacker? How much will it cost me to lease it? Oh yeah, we'll definitely be leasing that. So we may well be mowing and using the new bale stacker later today. That'll be exciting. And then assuming we have time, we might even get the chance to do some wrapping later with our new extractor. So we'll see how the rest of the day pans out. Okay, so we are coming up on 9:30, as you can see. We're over halfway through the field, so we're making very good time indeed. I started to run down here and then realised I hadn't actually turned the seeder on. So I've gone down about halfway down the pass and then forgot to turn on the seeder. So I've had to come back and start this run again. So you can see the ridge line there from our previous attempt, and also our tyre tracks as well from coming back down again. But as I say, yeah, despite that little mishap, that little faux pas, we are still making good time. So it's looking as though we might be on for a 11:30 finish at this rate, which definitely gives us time to go ahead and get all of our mowing and baling done today. And then maybe if we get the time, we might have to do that tomorrow. We can get the wrapping started as well. Now, what we're doing is just mowing and baling grass bales, and then transporting them over to our Eurotunnel at the BGA and storing them there. And then we'll be wrapping them at the BGA with the extractor in those long tube wraps. That's how we're going to be storing our bales for silage bale purposes. And we've got enough silage bales remaining here in the farm to not have to worry about food probably for most, if not all, of the rest of this year. And so we've got plenty of time to get sort of a grass silage cut started at a later point for us to get our loose silage started for TMR for next year, or possibly the end of this year, depending on how things kind of shake out. And so I'm not really worried about that. Get our ridge marker down. Seeder is on, good. Run back up here again. So yeah, I'm excited to try out that new extractor. I was I had planned on not doing it today, but I'm so impatient. I can't wait to try it out and just see how well it's going to work for us. I don't know how much space, how easy it's going to be to actually get everything transferred around at the BGA. I'm going to probably use the 6R for our wrapping purposes rather than the 6M, simply because I want to take a weight down with me as well as the extractor, and I won't be able to do that in one go. I suppose I could always buy another weight and leave that at the BGA. That might be one way around it. I don't want to overwork the 6R the way we overworked the 7R last year, and the 6R is already going to be doing things like mowing and stuff for us this year, so and running the baler, so I don't really want to overstress that this year as a way of making up for overstressing the 7R, just dumping too much on the 6R instead. So yeah, maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll just pick up another weight because they're kind of cheap, and we'll have that stored at the BGA in the Eurotunnel, so it's out of the way and it's just there when we need it, and that way we can take the extractor down and take a weight down at the same time, or have a weight available to us, because we only have a rear attacher, we don't have a front attacher. So while I can go down with the bale spikes and a weight, I then can't take the extractor, and if I take the extractor I can't take a weight, so it's one or the other, and I don't want to have to trek all the way back to the farm just for a weight. Going with the 6R, which does have a front linkage, would have allowed me to take both at the same time, but as I said, I don't want to overstress the 6R unless I can absolutely, unless I have absolutely no other kind of choice. So, and I've realised I meant to put duals on the 7R for this field. That's why we bought them last year, and I completely forgot about it. So, whoops, never mind. That's £8,000 that we spent that we haven't used yet. I'm sure at some point we'll find a use for duals on this. There we go. So I'll carry on finishing this field off, and I'll see you when we're about done. There we go, we are done. We finished seeding way earlier than I thought. It's what, 10:30. I thought an estimate of around 11:30 was optimistic at first, and look at that, 10:30 and we're done. So onto the mowing, getting that a little bit closer to trying out our brand new extractor. Hopefully we'll get time to do that today, but we'll certainly get the bales prepped and ready for it at the very least. And we will definitely be using one of the Anderson bale stackers today. We do need to go and lease that from the store. First thing, I just want to get this thing cleaned and put away first though. There we go. Let's back this into place. Not going to make that, that's for certain. There we go. Should be able to get in from here now. Just pull it forward and straighten it up a bit. There we go. This is the last time for quite some time that we'll need the seeder. Not until we get our cover crops back in the ground again. So it's done us well this year. It's really speeded up our planting process. I can't believe how fast we got everything done. Like I said, I was expecting this field to be a huge job. Even with the new seeder, I thought it would still take us a good couple of hours longer than it did. And yet here we are. Not even 11 o'clock and we're done. So very, very impressed and pleased with that. That's 7R parked away. So what shall we do first? Let's take the 6R. this is what we're going to use to mow. But we're also going to go and use this to go and collect our bale stacker. So let's make our way over to the store, go lease one of those, bring that back and get that sort of squared away on the field. We'll drop this weight off at the BGA at the same time, and hopefully we won't need it to deliver those bales over to the BGA, but we should be fine. And then we've got it there ready and waiting, and if we do need another one, we can always just take that back to the farm, as I'm sure we'll do some delivery work at some point between now and when we need another weight. So I will see you in just a moment. So I've dropped the weight off at the BGA. That's just to the side of our Eurotunnel, because I'm not quite sure how much space the bales are going to take up yet, so I don't want to put it in there and then have to take it out to move it to put it back in again later. It's just easier to leave it just to the side. But let's go collect our leased bale wrapper, bale stacker. There it is. Now the one I want to purchase is the one with the claw arm as opposed to this kind of lever arm. It's a bit more expensive, so we're just leasing this one here to the point where we actually have just enough of a need this year. But I would like to actually own one with a claw at some point. Even if we don't necessarily do it on this farm, we'll certainly have one of those on a different farm. Let's make our way back. Let's get some beacons on as well. Road is busy today. Traffic coming from everywhere. Look at this, more traffic coming in the direction as well. We'll have to let that go through. It's like the village is conspiring against me. It's like he's excited for a new toy. Don't let him use it. There we go. Finally, we are heading back to the farm with this new Anderson stacker. Alright, we'll leave that just there. Let's get our beacons off. We do need the mowers now, and on top of that we also kind of need to top our fuel tank up. We've burnt through more than half a tank of fuel, so while I get the shed opened up, I'll slap a bit of fuel into the 6R at the same time. So we just swing around to here. There we go, that's fueling up. Let's go get the doors open. There we go. And there's our new small round baler. It's going to be weird not wrapping and baling as we go. We did quite a lot of that last year, and this year we're just baling, no wrapping. At least not initially anyway. This is the first chance as well for us to try out the 6R on mowing duty. Obviously this was something that we used the 7R for last year, and while that was absolutely fine, it was kind of a little bit of overkill in terms of the vehicle being used. Way more power than absolutely necessary. More of a balanced engine this time around. 280 horsepower, I think. I think that's what we're sitting at, as opposed to the 350 that we put out with the 7R. So let's pull up in here and get started with our mowing. Oops. There we go. Get the right buttons. Make sure we don't hit the fence. Or the wall, for that matter. Getting right up to the edge of the hedgerow there. keep a nice gentle curve. Oh, got a little bit close there. We can still retrieve that grass with the windrow as long as we're careful. And there you can see our crop finally starting to grow over there as well. It's good to see some growth over there. There we go, that is a wheat crop, I think. Or was that barley? That might be barley. Yeah, that's barley, and we put wheat on the other field. So let's run down here. There we go. See that sort of pathway dividing our grassland and our cropland. There's our canola. Canola's looking very good, isn't it? Won't be too long until those crops will be ready to harvest. So another few days and then we can start working on that stuff. I thought there was a lump of something at the bottom here. It's a bush. I was wondering what that was as it was starting to spawn in. And then we'll just kind of round off over here. I'm not too worried about that little entrance area over there. It's going to be kind of like a staging area. I should have parked the bale stacker in there, really, I suppose. Never mind. And we'll get our field nicely mowed, and then we can get it windrowed, baled, and start transporting all of these bales over to the BGA if we get time once all this is done, because I'm not 100% certain we will have time. The baling is going to be the thing that slows us down here. If we do get the time, then we will try and get those wrapped, but I think those grass bales are just going to have to stay under the shelter overnight, and then we'll actually start the wrapping process tomorrow. And then once that's done, then we'll get our fields fertilised. It's kind of our timetable, I think. So I'll crack on with the mowing, and I'll see you in a little while. And there we go. That is the mowing done. Good stuff. So now it's time to get all this road up. Tried to work across the field in a slightly different way this time. I'm just experimenting because I want to see if the bales roll to less of an extent across the field rather than sort of down the field. I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference, if I'm honest, but it's worth a try, isn't it? You know, we had all sorts of issues with bales rolling last year. I figure if we can try and work at a diagonal angle, we can still get a lot of grass per pass. Try and minimise the amount of moves across the field we have to make, because if we go sideways we'll probably eliminate most of the rolling, but we'll get very, very short sort of passes before we have to turn around and come back again. It's just going to speed, cost us a lot of time. It's going to slow us down quite dramatically, so we'll try going at this diagonal angle this time instead, which means that's how we're going to be rowing the field as well. There we go. Sneak our way out. And once again, I'm going to do all the rows in the middle first, and then from that point there, we'll then do our boundary pass to tidy the edges up, and then aim to kind of finish off there at the entrance of the field, where our baling will kind of get started. So let's get lined up. Going to work it to get us started. Give me a line to follow. I might let the worker do most of this, and then obviously we're going to be doing our baling manually as well. You can see we're on a slope, but the slope does seem a little bit more gradual across the field than it does going down the field. So in theory, the bales shouldn't roll as much as they did last time out. In theory, of course, only time will tell, and we'll find out whether or not I've made a grave mistake, because it does get a bit steep here as well. As you can see, there's a bit more of a downward slope on the field just here. But I say the only other option is to work across the field that way, but the field gets so narrow that we're going to end up running out of space pretty quickly. So I'd rather avoid that if we can. We start about there on this pass. Now we could have gone a bit further across, but never mind. We'll get it figured out. We'll get it sussed, and then we'll get the baler out. So this is where things get a little bit trickier as we get to this little kind of boxed area over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a pass going up the side here as well. But I just need to get this bit here kind of covered. And then we'll do a pass all the way around the edge of the field to kind of get all these edges cleaned and make sure we're not missing any big chunks of grass. Let's try and deal with this corner. There we go. And obviously with this fence here, that's going to be quite an awkward thing for us to try and do on a diagonal. So we need to square up back here. There we go. Gonna miss the odd tiny little spot here and there, but I can live with that. And now we want to run all the way up here. Some of this is, as you can see, carried across over the path, and I want to get it off the path so I don't risk driving into my my fields with the baler when I turn around at the end of each pass. So I want this to be kind of like a defining border, and you can see this cuts the rows down a bit shorter as well, so there's less chance of us driving forward into the crop. I've got this tiny bit at the top that kind of still needs to be done as well. This is going to be a little bit more awkward. But we'll do what we can. So once again, I'm going to have a little bit of a mess to tidy up just here. Well, this isn't too bad. We can do a run down here like this. Let's get the lights on as well because it's quite shaded up here. We'll do that little bit down the bottom, and then we'll turn around, we'll go back up to the top, and we should then be able to actually clean the rest of the field in a single pass, you know, around the edge to get our border nice and neat. I'm going to work right up against the hedge this time, so that it's pulling it inside for what remains, that little thin bit there. And then we can just merge those together on the way back down again. So get to there and lift. Race back up to the top of the field. You can see the birds going after the worms again. All that freshly cut ground is exciting the worms, and they're some of them poking their heads out to instant doom. You'd think they'd learn, but apparently not. Looks like I might have missed a thin strip of my planting there. So that's a very thin strip. It's quite hard to tell from this angle. I saw that little dark line appear that shouldn't have been there. There we go, merge that over there. And now if we lift and try that one more time, we should, in theory, be good. Should be. Right up against the hedgerow here. There we go, and this is where we start to merge these rows together. There we go, nice and straightforward. And it should be nice and easy for us to clean up along the bottom as well. I think maybe the windrower is finally taking a little bit of wear and tear. Might need to, you know, just tune that up a bit after this. Oh, we missed just a tiny little speck there. I'm not too worried about that. We can grab that with the baler loose at the end. And then everything around here, again, just cleaning up those edges so we've got a little bit of turning room and we don't run into the wall at the end of the pass. And again, avoid the fence. Excellent stuff, there we go. So we've now got a start point for our baling. Beautiful stuff. So we'll go grab the baler and we'll make a start on getting this field cleared, and then we can pick those up with the new bale stacker that we've leased and get those transported over to the BGA. A little over halfway through the field, and as I say halfway through the field, it's more than that. It's probably approaching 2/3, but we've done the rows, as you can see, every other row, just to make it a bit easier for getting onto the next one. And these bales have been perfectly behaved. Not a single one of them has tried to make a breakaway dash for a hill or a fence or a hedge or anything like that. They've all stayed pretty much rooted to the spot. And I think it's a combination of the fact that they don't have wrap on. Because if you remember in our first year, our first batch of hay bales that we didn't really move anywhere. One or two maybe made a little bit of movement if they got nudged or went down on a bit of a bump. But they were pretty well behaved. We never had the chance to do a comparison with straw because we did a square bale for straw. But as soon as we started putting wrap on, the bales just went all over the place. These ones you can see here, they're on a slightly shallower slope because we're going across the field at an angle. But they are on a slope, all of them. And even the ones that I did going down that border pass on, alongside the path there, you can see that one there hasn't moved at all since we plonked it down. Every single one of these bales is on a downward slope, and not one of them has moved from when they've been dropped. So it's a problem with the wrap. The wrap is what made them roll. I'm convinced by it. They seem to be a little bit stickier to the ground when they're uncovered like this, when they're unwrapped, either grass or hay. And as I say, we never got the chance to try with straw because we used square bales, but I'm pretty sure it would have been the same result. So that's kind of interesting to see, and it's also quite encouraging because, like I said, I was really worried that we would have just a mess of bales to collect from all over the place, and that just is not going to be the case. They're going to be nice and easy in a line for us to go and grab. So I'll crack on and get this done, and then we can actually start collecting them. Onto the final pass here, the final swath of grass. I have absolutely no idea how many bales we've created. Haven't been paying any attention or checking at all, so this will be a complete surprise to see the total. I have absolutely no kind of idea. I haven't even hazarded a guess. I don't know. I would guess somewhere between 60 maybe 70 bales at a push. It looks like we're going to just not quite get enough for another bale. It's a bit of a shame. I might grab the front mower and just see if I can fill up with a couple of 1,000 litres. But there we go. Our baling is done. Look at that. That is a lot of bales. I'm just going to clean this baler out. We'll get it emptied out and make sure that we don't have any grass just in there rotting away. I thought about maybe attacking this little area down here, but that means breaking out the mower, which we've already kind of put away. So we'll leave the baler just here. Let's go grab our bale stacker. Now this can carry 24 bales at a time, which is a huge improvement on the little Ursus bale collector we were using last year, where we could only get 8 at a time. To clear a field, took an eternity. This is going to really speed that process up 3 times the capacity. As is the other one, the RBM Pro. That is also 24 bales, but that has a different way of actually picking those bales up. So let's just see, how many do we have? Created bales 62 this session. That's a pretty decent number, between 60 and 70. So I was kind of okay with that estimate, but given how much of the field we'd given up, and some of the field that we didn't cut, that we did cut previously, that's kind of a pretty decent amount there. I kind of like that. I love the way these stackers roll the bales on like this in groups of 3. Does the 2 ground levels and then goes up and drops one over the top, and it only pushes it back 1 block as well, which helps speed up operation. It doesn't push. If you remember with the with some other stackers, they get pushed all the way to the back before the arm comes, the central arm comes back up and resets the stacker. So you don't have to wait for those bales to travel all the way down the centre of the trailer. They only go back 1 block, which again just speeds up the collection process a little bit. really, really good. You see the arm extending there to reach up. They get pushed back one little block. And there we go. A quick turnaround, ready for the next set of bales. I love that. It's just, it's so simplistic, but so effective. There we go. Excellent stuff indeed. So an absolute ton of bales to get off this field. I will carry on doing this. I'll see you when we get to the BGA with our first stack of 24. Because we're going to have 3 stacks, 2 full ones and a partial. So I'll see you in a moment. Alright, let's see. Ooh. Just clipped the side of a van there. It's one thing you do need to be wary of, is that arm does stick out a little bit on the side there. So you do need to be wary on the slightly tighter roads where there is a risk of, you know, colliding with a truck or a cement truck or something like that. But what we need to do now is we need to get all of our bales stacked away in here. Now this is going to be tricky for a couple of reasons. One, we need a little bit of speed, ideally, to pull us forward so we're not relying on the bales just being pushed onto the floor, because that tends to unsettle the stacks and make them bounce around a little bit, which we don't want. The other thing is that I only have a certain amount of distance I can pull forward before I hit the roof of my Eurotunnel there with our tipper raised up. So this is going to be tricky, to say the least. And we'll try and make sure we're straight. Sticking out a little bit. Well, that's fine, I'm not straight yet. There we go, I think we're straight. So I want to be sticking right at the back here. Like that. I'm going to change cruise control down to 2 miles an hour and hope that I'm going to have enough space to do this. Otherwise this could get a little bit messy. Let's unload to get the trailer tilted. And unload and hit cruise control. So far so good. So far so good. Oh, look at that. Just fit those in. Oh wow. I'm going to unsettle the stack, folding the arms up. Oh, that was close. That was very, very close. I might have to forego having the Eurotunnel here for a shallower one, just for keeping stacked bales in, and then put some other kind of shed in just for for these when we bring them down to unload. I mean, normally it's not going to be a major issue because we're not going to be bringing these bales down and then just kind of leaving them here overnight. We'll be bringing them down on the day that we're going to be wrapping them, in theory. But yeah, that's something to think about. So I've got another stack that I need to bring down. I might see if I can actually put those in the front here and get 2 stacks that way. Let's go get the next set of bales and see how that gets on. Alright, here we are back with the second stack. Let's see, can I sneak these in the front? Am I going to have enough room to tip these here at the front? Or is that height issue going to catch me out? I don't know if it's going to let me do this or not. We'll try. I can go back as far as there, which I think is about right, actually. So let's hit unload, cruise control, pull ourselves forward, and hopefully that stack will be a little bit better behaved. There we go, perfect. That's how they're supposed to go down. Lovely. So It looks as though I need to perhaps have a little bit of a rethink as to how we have our Euro tunnels over here. We still have one more trailer to go and collect. It's going to be a partial trailer, and I'll stick that somewhere, and then we'll wrap all this up tomorrow. So that'll be our main task, and then after that we'll get onto the fertilising and start working the fields with their final application of fertiliser for the year. So until then, that's it from me. Thanks for watching. I am Jim Bob, and I'll be back with some more Marwell Manor very soon.